Some years ago, Mike Gundy had to buck his own trend by burning the red shirt of Mason Rudolph to not only salvage the season, give the Cowboys the opportunity to potentially make a bowl game, but also build something for the next season. Mike Gundy is in the same position now.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at AllDayOState. Today, we're personally brought to you by FanDuel. Get a big return with FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and get started with $150 back in bonus bets if your $5 bet is a winner. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to get started today. Meanwhile, we get started in the conversation of the Cowboys at QB. And yes, we all know that Mike Gundy does not like to, make a lot of changes, especially early on in the season. Well, we're late into the season. And we also know that somewhat reluctantly, Mike Gundy did pull the red shirt of Mason Rudolph in 2014 to salvage the season and give Oklahoma State at least an opportunity to make a bowl game after a couple different injuries. That is somewhat applicable to this season as well. I find the parallels here at least worthy of talking about. Alan Bowman clearly has not been the guy to lead the Cowboys this season. And now that we're looking at the potential of not even possibly making a bowl game, you have to have a massive injection into this Cowboy ball club. And there's no better position to do it than quarterback. That seems to be the biggest issue for this particular offense. The conversation about the defense that could be had ad nauseum, which we're going to talk a little bit here in segment 2, but this is an opportunity for Mike Gundy to kind of erase some of the ridiculousness that's gone on over the last few weeks, not just his most recent comments about the fan base and everybody, which I don't know exactly what a ratio is, but if there's ratios on X about multiple people saying I can't watch Oklahoma State because I'm too poor, it's pretty hilarious, which also leads me into the parallels of 2014. Guys, we've all heard at least, rumors, I guess you could call it, that Boone Pickens and Mike Holder were willing to hold Mike Gundy's feet to the fire for the 2014 season. And Mike Gundy kind of really didn't have much of a choice but to burn the red shirt of Mason Rudolph to give us the opportunity. And we all know how that worked out. Mason came in, finished a game, won a game, and then Mason Rudolph won Bedlam alongside Tyreek Hill in 2014. And realistically speaking, that was a major deal in consecutive bowl games that we've been able to maintain 18 years in a row. That seems to be slipping by the wayside this season, but there still is an opportunity for Mike Gundy to rinse out some of the bad taste in the mouth of Cowboy faithful, especially recently. And that can be resolved with the new quarterback play of Maealiuaki Smith. We saw a little bit of what Maealiuaki Smith could do in the Arizona State game. And yes, it's against a small sample size. And of course, you could potentially say that ASU had some backups and reserves in the game. But regardless, Maealiuaki Smith drove us down the field and was able to score instantaneously. Why? Because not only his size and capabilities, but the athleticism. And we saw the same thing with Garrett Rangel. This is another evidentiary piece of proof that Mike Gundy cannot select the right quarterback, which makes next season even more so problematic because you guys all know I think it should be the Garrett Rangel show. But if Maealiuaki Smith goes in there and is somewhat productive, as productive as he was for the little sample size that we got against Arizona State, that will rejuvenate not only the Cowboy fan base, but the locker room, at least to some degree. We saw a massive differentiation between how the game was played with Garrett Rangel in, as opposed to how the game was played with Alan Bowman in. Now, does that mean that the whole team has completely sailed the ship on Alan Bowman? Maybe. But again, attitude is a reflection of leadership. So if we have guys being lackadaisical out on the field, yet the accountability is virtually zero, you can't really expect to see a completely different brand of Cowboy football this late into the season. But Maealiuaki Smith, obviously from an athletic perspective, does give you some things that Alan Bowman cannot. He's more elusive than Garrett Rangel, maybe not quite as athletic as Zane Flores, but that sets up the conversation for next year's quarterback battle that we probably need to see now. This is the time for Oklahoma State to give something to kind of launch forward to the next season. Now, is Chad Weiberg going to be a Mike Holder? And do we have a Boone Pickens that's willing to kind of put Mike Gundy in a position that he needs to make this kind of decision? Likely not. But if Chad Weiberg were to be intelligent about this entire thing, this would be something that is being pushed, because Mike Gundy does need to show everybody that he still can do this, and he understands the lay of the land, and he also understands that from a statistical perspective, Maealiuaki Smith is going to be able to do something, because we saw a little bit of it at Arizona State. And again, what this does is at least gives us a small sliver of an opportunity to make a bowl game, right? It also does a lot to set us up for the next season. The likelihood of us keeping all three of them, Zane Flores, Maealiuaki Smith, and Garrett Rangel, are probably pretty small. But seeing what we've seen out of Garrett Rangel for the little bit this season, and knowing what we have athletically out of Zane Flores, and then seeing it again out of Maealiuaki Smith, it clearly is the only way that Casey Dunn is able to operate an offense is with a mobile quarterback. Again, we go back to Spencer Sanders. A lot of us Spencer Sanders made a lot of us want to pull our hair out. But the more you look back, the more you realize it's because we didn't really have much of a choice. Neither did Spencer Sanders. Would it have been nice for him to go through his progressions a little bit better? Yeah, of course it would have. But his athleticism and his ability to extend plays are clearly the only semblance of offense we've had over the last 4 or 5 years, outside of having a massive season by Ollie Gordon this last season. This year, teams have him figured out. They have Alan Bowman figured out. And unfortunately, it kind of goes hand in hand, which is why you need to put Maealiuaki Smith out there, because athletically, he can at least extend some drives and give the defense the opportunity to get some rest. Now, whether they're getting rest to get off the field, it still remains to be seen. Thus far, it hasn't really been very pretty for the defensive side of the ball, but offensively, Ollie Gordon and the running game in general is not getting a whole lot of help. And it's clear that Alan Bowman is not going to be the dude that's going to be out there leading the guys on the field to a lot of victories. Now, he could potentially do that from the sidelines. Begin your LinkedIn career. Grab the clipboard like we know you probably were going to before all of the injuries popped up, and let's just do it. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Alan Bowman should be hitting the working class here before too long, and if he's going to do it, he needs to make sure to do it the right way, and the right way is with LinkedIn Talent Solutions. When you're trying to hire for your small business, you want the most qualified professionals that are right for your specific job. That is why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. They have all the tools that you need to help you find the right professionals. It's not your typical run-of-the-mill job board. They have 100 professionals that hire hundreds of other professionals that can help you find the hundreds of employees that are right for the next opportunity. Over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading sites because they know the bee's knees is with LinkedIn. And 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within the first 24 hours. Make sure that you're hiring professionals like a professional by using the professionals of LinkedIn. They know that small businesses don't have the same time frame to allocate to the right resources to hiring. That's why LinkedIn is going to help you on top of the other 2.5 million small businesses to get the next hire that you need. Make sure that you post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege, all one word, LockedOnCollege. Again, that is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Go there today to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Go to linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to get your career started the right way with the right people. So I definitely think that a change to Maealiuaki Smith is a necessity. And with some of the heat that Mike Gundy's taken recently, it's a move that he might be pressured to do more so now than ever. If there's any truth to the fact that 2014 were a byproduct of Mike Holder and Boone Pickens saying, Mike Gundy, you have to do something. Do not sit on your hands. Do not rest on your laurels. Do something to at least get us to a bowl game. And that is precisely what happened. And the Bedlam win obviously made the conversation for the next season much more anticipatory. Not even to mention the fact that we have a lot of wide receivers that we're going to be able to come back at that same point in time. whenever you're looking to get more than just the offense going, you got to talk about the defense. And Mike Gundy, again, has not been able to hold himself accountable, his staff accountable, his team accountable. He does want to throw the players under the bus and the families under the bus. And it's an absolutely wild time, which is why I think he needs to do some sort of these injections of the underclassmen to at least show us that we could potentially make a bowl. And if we don't or do, this is what we could be looking at for the next season. I think a lot of us love seeing Rodney Fields in the game. Trent Hallen being back out there makes a whole lot of sense. If Ollie Gordon is banged up to any capacity, we got to get more of these guys out there. And another thing, it sets the right example from an accountability perspective. You cannot be as hypocritical as Mike Gundy and our staff has been by kicking dudes off and letting dudes leave, but then also starting the same people. So this is why I'm saying in this game, the same conversation needs to be had about Maealiuaki Smith as it does need to have on the defensive side of the ball. I don't care if it's Yamil Talib, Gunnar Wilson, Jonathan Agumidu, or Tamara Johnson, Gabe Brown, Chance Clements, Justin Wright, a safety that we could kind of squeeze up there to play linebacker. Maybe Trey Rucker plays linebacker and we squeeze some more out of David Kabongo and Landon Cleveland. But whatever you do, do not start Kendall Daniels and any of the defensive linemen that have been a problem. I don't know if it's a talent issue, if it's a strength issue, but I think it's safe to say if we were to gamble a percentage, our defensive line gets stood straight up at the line of scrimmage probably 60-ish% of the time. So not even talking about getting pressure. We're just talking about winning at the line of scrimmage. Neither the O-line or the T-line have been able to do that much of this season. So again, don't know if it's a talent thing. I don't think that Colin Clay or Justin Kirkland are untalented, nor do I think guys like Xavier Ross and Amon Oates are untalented. But clearly, from a technical perspective, something isn't working right. So give us more injections. Do not play the people that you know are jogging and loafing on the field and not giving the full effort. That is the worst thing you can do from an accountability perspective because the players see it, the recruits see it, the families see it, the high school coaches see it. It doesn't take rocket science to point out number 5 with a laser pointing pin and give the dude F after F after F after F, but he continues to get out there. So this could be a negative conversation about NIL. Is it potentially possible that the same conversation should be had about Brian Nardo being forced to play guys that he didn't necessarily think that he needed to because of his seniority? Could that be a factor in this season? Absolutely. And the NIL could also be a factor. Why is Kendall Daniels still out there? How are you going to pretend to hold the team accountable, hold yourself accountable, and then play the same dudes that have been a problem for the entirety of the season? The guys that are clearly checked out and don't give 13 hoops or poops to try. You can't do that. That is hypocritical. That is fake accountability. And that has been the biggest problem with Mike Gundy this season for sure. Play some more dudes that clearly it means more for. Did Landon Cleveland make mistakes? Yes. Has David Kabongo made mistakes? Yes. But guess what? It's really fun to see them not make mistakes, or it's also really fun to see them flying around the field at 73,000 miles an hour while making those mistakes. I've said it before. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. The fact that we keep playing these seniors needs to be studied. We all agree that if you stay somewhere for 4, 5, 6 years, you've earned your stripes. You deserve to play, unless you're getting caught loafing or jogging or not giving full effort or getting stood up at the line of scrimmage over and over and over again. The rotation seemed like a good idea. I don't think it's worked very well. But somehow, amongst all of the rotational capabilities that we do have and some of the spots that we have been rotating, even if we're thin at linebacker, you put out the right guys that set the right example. We're shooting ourselves in the foot right now. The argument that the fan base is hurting recruiting is absolutely preposterous. The product being put on the field is the issue. The nonsensical responses from Mike Gundy, the fake apologies, that stuff is going to permeate outside of the locker room, and it has nothing to do with the fan base. Matter of fact, the fan base, I would argue, has been the bright spot to some degree of the season. And now we have the opportunity to go into Fort Worth when nobody expects us to win. It could be an ugly slugfest style of game, not that it means that both teams are evenly matched, but some of the things they're good at, we're also pretty good at. And some of the things they're bad at, we're also bad at. So We should be able to have a good counterbalancing act if we play the right guys. Play the guys who you know are going to give the most effort, point blank, period. Because playing the upperclassmen that know the system and know the calls and the shifts, it doesn't work, or at least it hasn't been working. This is an opportunity to start Maealiuaki Smith and prove a point. Sorry, I've been screwing up. I know I've been screwing up. Here's my attempt to fix it. If you're going to do that offensively, you have to do the same thing defensively. We cannot get worse on either side of the ball. Being dead last in the conference and dead last in the country is where we are. So you cannot tell us that starting 4 freshmen, 5 freshmen, 6 freshmen, 2 sophomores, whatever the case may be, that it's going to look any worse than it's already been looking. Like, we're so out of position more often than not defensively that you can't tell us that putting a freshman or a sophomore out there is going to change anything. If anything, you might put somebody out there that's willing to give significantly more effort and play with reckless abandon. Like, guys, Trey Rucker has been the calling card of the defense. Luckily, he's only kind of loafed at one game, but even that one game, it sets the wrong example. You have all of these seniors and all of these upperclassmen, yet a decent portion of them have been part of the problem. And I do know that some of the underclassmen have been enjoying the festivities of the campus a little bit too much for the coaches to have the warm and fuzzies. That's on them. That's a learning moment for them as well, though. If they can, have a couple weeks of good practices, good performances, good film study, good preparation, good academic control, let them loose, let them play, let them have some fun. Let us see what it looks like and give us some hope that we might be able to make a bowl game. And next season is going to be worth buying into, because as it sits right now, I don't know of anybody that's willing to donate a bunch of NIL. And that's a byproduct of Mike Gundy. And that sucks for the players. But everybody should be pretty reluctant to give their NIL dollars, because when we did all fork over some money and we did bring in back Ollie and the line and everybody else, Mike Gundy did absolutely nothing with it. He wasted it. And then he has the audacity to complain about all of the people who donated those dollar bills as being the focal point of the season. A lot of people decided to help Oklahoma State out instead of potentially maybe paying an extra electric bill or maybe paying an extra T-Mobile bill. That's why that comment is so difficult to swallow for everybody. And that's why it is difficult to take this football team seriously and this football staff seriously, as much as does Chad Weiberg take football seriously. We have the right to question all of that at this point in time. Yet here we are in a position that Mike Gundy can change a lot of the conversation and a lot of the narrative. If you put in a bunch of dudes like the Gunnar Wilsons and the Jonathan Agumadus, and you get more Landon Cleveland, Rodney Fields, David Kabongo, LaDainian Fields, maybe you get some youth on the O-line, D-line, because what we have isn't working, on top of Maealiuaki Smith. Even if we lose, if you at least show everybody that you understand that this has been an absolute failure and the senior leadership has been an absolute failure, if you don't want to have a mass exodus of a bunch of underclassmen leaving because they knew they were prepared, they knew they graded out good in practice, yet they felt ostracized through certain portions of the season, if you want to keep those guys engaged and find a way to have the underclassmen kind of regalvanize within themselves, they have to play. And now we're at the point in the season where more often than not, you're not going to have any issues of pulling the red shirt. Then you have somebody like Io Shotomide King. We completely wasted him this season. He should have been a red shirt candidate. But the mismanagement of this roster has been pretty crazy. Yet Mike Gundy does have the opportunity to at least show the fan base, show Chad Weiberg, show the recruits that Mike Gundy does get it. He can fix it. At least put a Band-Aid on it. I feel like we got a really nice Band-Aid last year. Maybe that's all we're asking for at this point in time is another Band-Aid. But okay, fine. Give us the Band-Aid. We got to do something. An injection of youth has been beneficial. And Maealiuaki Smith is going to be able to provide some things that we haven't had since we saw Garrett Rangel almost do the daggone thing all day against BYU. Speaking of doing the daggone thing all day, you have to set your future up right starting today. Investments are tricky, some would say risky, unless you're rocking and rolling today with Robinhood. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you're trying to get your future squared away, make sure that Robinhood Gold is who you use. You don't need a silver spoon to eat up financial favors that the 1% typically get. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for that special high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn a very liberal rate of 4.5 APY on an uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA accounts. Robinhood Gold provides the privilege of high net worth for any net worth. The generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold today. Terms apply. For specific disclosure, make sure that you visit robinhood.com/gold. Again, that is robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rates may change, but gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC for you today to help you get right for your future. Speaking of getting right, might as well get right for the now and the future. Collectively, all together with FanDuel, the bee's knees in the betting industry is here to help you tackle some more NFL action. Tylen Wallace, we appreciate you. Continue to do what you do, baby. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if that $5 holler's a winner. The Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your bets live with the NFL all in one place. So when you get that tingling sensation in your loins and you know something crazy is about to happen, you can now check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more from the same place where you get the bets started at. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to join today. Get started with the 150 bones back in bonus bets if your $5 bet is a winner. Make sure that you visit FanDuel.com and never waste that tingling sensation because every moment matters more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as we get set to take on TCU, I know a lot of us out there are interested in just some of the recruiting battles, right? The Schobel brothers obviously are seemingly going down to TCU. We got John Paul Richardson down there. I know a lot of us still like to see what he can do out there on the football field. So it will be pretty interesting. There are a lot of parallels between what Gary Patterson was going through and what Mike Gundy is currently going through. There's a lot of parallels between the Cowboys statistically and the TCU Horned Frogs. And basketball, the men's team looked good whenever, they had their opportunity. And the women's team officially started the season the right way against Oral Roberts. And to tell you the truth, it was really fun to see the Herd versus Herd sisters go against each other. That was pretty cool, right? And of course, our Herd got off to a very hot start and continued throughout the course of the game. I thought that maybe Brock Huard's daughter would, have another massive game. But we've got a true big that a lot of teams in the country are going to have a hard time contending with. And we've got some shooters all over the floor. Now we're very sloppy, right? The game started off like a track meet. ORU and OSU were both going up and down, up and down, up and down. The half-court sets looked pretty good. J.C. Hoyt obviously had a really nice rotation. And we went up against a few different Cowgirls against ORU. And it was kind of interesting to see some of the matchups. And ORU is going to have a pretty decent ball club, at least from what you can see. They got a little bit out of their comfort zone, and they weren't able to buy buckets there towards the end of the game. But J.C. Hoyt had a really good start. It was a really good win. Even though the game was tight for a decent amount of it, when we go on those stretches, it was a pretty commanding presence out there on the floor, minus the sloppiness, which you don't mind in the first couple games of the season, because those are things that you can rectify very, very easily, or at least with this style of rotation and this level of a roster, we didn't even need to see what Annegret Assi could do when she gets hot, because we kind of already know. And that was the thing last season. We relied on Annegret Assi and Loyola Garzon so often that if those two individuals were having a rough game, we were in for a rough day. I think this J.C. Hoyt ball club has the ability to go a little bit deeper. Foul trouble is going to be a little less of a concern than last season. Last season was a problem. Injuries were an issue. But this J.C. Hoyt ball club clearly has the ability to get up and down the floor. And now we have some legitimate, big play. it's going to be very interesting to see what this Cowgirl ball club can do. Preseason 11th in the conference. So at least the expectations nationally and in the conference are somewhat low. But that rotation is pretty good, and we are not reliant on just one or two girls anymore. We have more capable scorers all up and down the lineup now, and it gives so much versatility to JC Hoyt that we should see this team make some noise in the Big 12 and potentially punch their ticket at the end of the year to March. The Big 12 women's basketball is not the same as men's, right? And the men's, if you're top 9, you're probably getting in. Women's is not quite the same way, but the Cowgirls have shown that they have some depth. They have some key pieces that we didn't have last year. So if the Cowgirls can stay healthy, this could be a ball club that's competitive in almost every game. So you guys, let me know down in the comment section if you were able to watch the Cowgirls take on ORU, what your thoughts were. Let me know down in the comment section as well on your percentage of likelihood that we see Maealiuaki Smith. Mike Gundy doesn't like to do this, but potentially, if he was forced to do it in 2014, it worked out miraculously. Maybe there's a little bit of a forcing of a hand now, because from what I've gathered, there's nobody at Oklahoma State that's super happy about the stuff that Mike Gundy's been saying in conjunction with the disastrous season, on top of refusing to fire anybody or make any changes or have any accountability. It's just all been smoke and mirrors and a bunch of pretentious bull honky by Mike Gundy. But he can erase some of that with a win. We got to get a conference W at some point in time. And if you add the injections of, the guys who are willing to hold themselves accountable, as opposed to the guys who are not, maybe you have an opportunity. And maybe that allows everybody to calm down a little bit on Mike Gundy, because here's the deal. If he rolls out Alan Bowman, it's the same old, and we get beat up again, it's the same old, then the conversation about Mike Gundy continues to get worse. But if he plays Maealiuaki Smith and we see some Yamil Talib, Gunnar Wilson, Jonathan Agumedu, more David Kabongo, Rodney Fields, that style of stuff, and we win the ball game, then not everyone's going to keep talking about the crazy Mike Gundy. So this is good for Mike Gundy. What is good for his goose is good for us to gander. And that ganderment needs to be some new dudes, especially at quarterback. Give the locker room the ability to kind of ride with somebody that can change things up. At least defensively, people don't have a lot of preparation time. If it were to be Maealiuaki Smith, people have had plenty of time to prepare for Alan Bowman. They've had plenty of time to prepare, if that's what you want to call it, for Kendall Daniels. So buck the trend and save the season, at least to some degree. Give us something to look forward to as we gear up for next season, even if we don't make a bowl game. All righty, y'all. So we're going to have this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Like it if you like the daggone thing. Dislike if you don't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast people out there, you're the bricks, the bread, the butter, the fountain, the fondue, the funky stuff, the funny stuff. You're all of it. I appreciate you. Hit the stars, leave a review, do what you do. Oh, and I forgot before we skedaddle, shout out to my friends, Falcons. They're going to have the opportunity to win a KCAC title, staying in the top 20. They do have one loss, but they'll have the opportunity to make up that loss as well. So go check out my Falcons. Go check out the Cowboys this Saturday if you're a glutton for punishment. All righty, y'all. Later, my taters.